This is a Timor shield mantis, and she needs a home. As she grows, she'll reach about 10 centimeters in length, so let's make sure she has plenty of room. So let's get scaping. I picked up this second-hand Vivarium. This would make the perfect enclosure for building my scape for the mantis. I would need to strip it down to its bare glass first, and then give it a good solid clean. For cleaning the Vivarium, I turned to the classic white vinegar and water. This solution is strong enough to clean any stubborn stains while keeping it safe for any animals that go inside the Vivarium. The glass panels were simply sprayed down, wiped and then dried, and already you can see quite the difference. Bottom air vents have become clogged with dirt and debris. This required a special touch to clear it out. An on-hand and empty airbrush turned out to be quite the tool, allowing me to blow out all the excess dirt and dust. With some time and a bit more effort, the Vivarium was finally clean. The glass was looking a lot better already, and with the cleaning done, I could get to the fun part and start scaping. I had a large piece of flat cork bark that would be perfect for the backdrop of the Vivarium. It just needed cut down to the correct size. I took some measurements, and with a sharp Stanley blade, I cut the cork bark to roughly the right size. I would need to make some adjustments and trim off some excess around the edges. I needed it to fit properly snug into the back of the Vivarium. Getting an exact fit proved slightly more challenging than first expected. If I wanted a real tight fit, I would need to go over it piece by piece, cutting off small sections as I go until it properly fits as I need. Thankfully, cork bark is really easy to work with and cuts quite well with just a basic Stanley knife. By the time I had finished, I had ended up trimming off quite a pile, but the effort was worth it as the cork bark fit perfectly into the back of the Vivarium. I could now turn my attention to the main structure of the Vivarium. I had several pieces of smaller cork bark and a large branch to work with. I removed the back piece and lay it flat to give me somewhere to experiment and see how I wanted to use the cork bark and branches. The branch would be the main focus, as this is where the mantis was most likely to spend more of its time. And with that in mind, I knew the branch would be hanging down, while the other pieces of bark would be combined together to create something similar to a tree trunk. But firstly, I needed a substrate. Given that I was going to be recreating a jungle environment, I needed something that could hold water and keep humidity high within the Vivarium. So I'm making up my substrate from two parts. The first part will be made up of clay pebbles. A layer of this on the bottom will hold water and give somewhere good for all the roots to grow into. The second part to be layered on top of the clay pebbles is a rainforest terrarium substrate. This is made up of heat treated and dried bark and moss and makes a perfect substrate for this type of vivarium. These two substances mixed together create the perfect substrate for controlling humidity and moisture throughout the vivarium. With the substrate in place, I moved to securing the branch to the backboard. To achieve this, I used a clear silicone, one that's safe for uses in aquariums and vivariums. I simply siliconed any places that came in contact with the backboard, securing the branch in place. I then left it for 24 hours to fully set and cure. I was very happy with the end result. The branches spread out throughout the entire vivarium, giving depth and plenty of locations for the mantis to hang out. The next step was to design the rest of the vivarium. With the extra cork bark, I knew I wanted to create a tree trunk, but the exact location and style I was unsure with. I used this time to experiment by moving pieces around and trying different configurations. I finally settled on having the tree trunk on the right hand side. The main reason for this was because I was adding plants soon, and one of them was quite tall, so I left space for it to grow. To double check all this, I added in the plants while still in their pots to give me an idea of what the final vision would look like. I used the silicone again to secure the cork bark into one single piece. This allowed me to work with it a lot easier and secure it in place properly. I decided I wasn't going to secure the tree trunk to the backboard to allow for removal if needed. This would make it easier for any form of maintenance or cleaning. With all the structures in place and the substrate set, I moved on to the plants. I had a selection of 4 plants: a parlour palm, a lady fern, a nidularium fireball, and devil's ivy. These 4 plants were chosen because they like to live in warm, humid environments, just like the vivarium's going to be. When it came to planting, the parlour palm was a natural fit in the back left side. This natural void gave it plenty of room to grow. I added some of the soil that the plants came in just for added nutrients until their root systems developed in the new substrate. For the devil's ivy, I had the idea of it growing out of the tree trunk. To ensure it had adequate access to water though, I placed in some sphagnum moss. This moss is great for retaining water and would give somewhere for the ivy to really get its roots into. I chose the fireball to go at the front. When this plant flowers, it becomes really bright and vibrant. A plant that's worth showing off, and definitely earns its place towards the front of the vivarium. It also allows it to benefit from more natural light. Last but not least, the lady fern. This plant would have plenty of space to spread out. With its lower hanging leaves, it will cover up a lot of the empty space, covering the ground in a better green. With the plants in place, the fundamentals of the vivarium was complete. It had everything it needed to become a living space for a mantis. I was quite pleased how it turned out so far. The vibrant green of the plant really contrasted well against the bark and the substrate. This should only improve over time as the plants get to spread out and really develop into their new world. I used more sphagnum moss to cover up any areas I had used silicone on. Although it wasn't visible, I wanted that more natural look just in case it could be seen. And one final addition, I used some spare leaves I had and scattered them across the forest floor. This had two benefits. One, it created a more natural look and also provide food and shelter for the critters I'd be adding later. With everything in place, I gave it a good spray down with water. This helped build the humidity levels and water the new plants. I also loved the effect this had. Watching the water collect on the branches and drip into the foliage below, it immediately brought to mind the rainforest. No forest floor is complete without a collection of bugs to look after the soil. These cleanup crews are essential to a biodiverse and living vivarium. I have selected some springtails and grey and orange woodlice to do this job. These critters will look after the forest floor, cleaning up any debris and decaying plant matter, while self-maintaining their own numbers. The woodlice can also act as a source of food for the mantis if it comes to it. The vivarium is finally finished. All that's left is to move it to where it belongs and let everything settle. So let's turn out the lights and wait a few days. The vivarium's in place and it's looking good. It's time to introduce the mantis. This is the first mantis I've kept. I really hope the vivarium I've built suits her needs. I'm looking forward to watching her grow and learning more about her. She already looks like she belongs in this vivarium. If you have any stories of keeping your own mantis, I always love to hear them. Alongside that, make sure you like and subscribe. It will really help me build this channel and attempt more projects like this. There's a lot of different stuff I want to try, and I hope that you're interested and follow along. Thank you for joining me on Lifescape Nooks. Keep creating and keep scaping, and I'll see you next time.